This is Democracy Watch. So, Mark, we've got some breaking news out of North Carolina where Republicans just got dealt a blow. What happened?
So, good news. In October, North Carolina Republicans passed a new voter suppression bill. 6 minutes after they did, my team sued. And just now, the court blocked it from going into effect. And so we have a victory in North Carolina for voters as we head towards their March primaries.
Okay, so that bill, SB 747, who did that disproportionately impact and why? And do we have a sense of how many voters could have been disenfranchised if your team didn't win this lawsuit?
Yeah, so let's talk about what the bill did, because it's really pernicious. Uh, North Carolina allows for same-day registration. What it said is that if you same-day register, the state is going to send a non-forwardable postcard to your address, the address at which you register. And if the Postal Service returns that as undeliverable, then your ballot's going to be thrown out. You're not going to be told. You're not going to be given an opportunity to contest that it was a mistake on someone else's part. Your ballot just gets thrown out without you knowing. It's like Orwellian.
Yeah.
And so what we know is that this disproportionately affects Black, Latino, and young voters. Why? Because those are the populations that do same-day registration in higher levels than others. They are also most likely to have to be the victim of these postcards being sent back because their housing situation tends to be more insecure. But lest you think that they are somehow contributing to the problem, here's a statistic you need to know. 23% of all of the undeliverable mail that comes out of our system is the result of an error by the U.S. Postal Service. So about a quarter of undeliverable mail is actually not the voter's fault at all. It's entirely the post office's error. So why would they pass a law that, first of all, relies on this error-prone system, but second, and this is the key, doesn't tell the voter that this happened to them?
Well, I mean, it's doubly beneficial because either they get to purposefully disenfranchise young Black, brown voters, or accidentally disenfranchise them, knowing that knowing that it's Democrats who cast ballots, same day ballots,
and that they don't notify the voter so that the voter can say, "Hey, that's not right. What do you mean? I am registered there. I live there. Here's a picture of my house. It's a nice white house with a picket fence, lab in the lawn.
Now, what was the rationale given by Republicans to justify this legislation that seems otherwise like blatantly anti-democratic on its face?
So this is the thing, Brian, and you and I have talked about this in State After State. The Republicans don't even feel the need to really give a good reason.
Yeah.
They just wave the magic wand of fraud, election integrity, but they don't actually explain how it is that this system is protecting anyone and doing anything other than disenfranchising. So they've actually become quite lazy. The court, in its opinion, actually noted that the legislature really didn't offer any explanation for how this provision was doing anything to prevent illegal voting.
Yeah. Now, because of this ruling, North Carolina now does have to provide same-day voters who fail the address verification process with a chance to be notified and hopefully remedy this and appear at a hearing before the County Board of Elections prior to their ballots being removed from the official count. But isn't notifying them that they have to appear at a hearing, isn't that still burdensome to have to show up?
Yeah, so look, I think you make a really good point, and it's something I've tried to stress across a range of laws that we've seen the Republicans enact. All of these things are burdensome. All of these things. Every time we say, well, yeah, there are long lines, but a long line's burdensome. It may not be determinative. And all of these ways in which they reject ballots, and we say, yeah, well, at least the lawyers, went to court and got an opportunity for a notice and the opportunity to cure it. And the answer is yes, that's true. But we can't miss the fundamental point that you're making, which is that these are still burdens on voting that are totally unnecessary. And so the cumulative effect that Republicans are trying to create is to add as many burdens as possible. Now, they'd like to make burdens that are insurmountable, but even where the burdens are surmountable, like here, it still makes voting harder. And we can never accept that as the normal state.
Now, are there other provisions of SB 747, this law that was overturned? Are there any other provisions that are being challenged aside from the same day stuff?
Yeah, so there are other provisions mostly dealing with a requirement for additional identification beyond the photo ID
Yeah.
required for same-day registrants. So it's like an ID upon ID requirement, which makes no sense. That was not the subject of this first ruling, but North Carolina should learn from history. When we bring litigation, we fight and we fight hard. And we don't give up. And so, I mentioned we sued 6 minutes after they passed this law. We got this first victory. North Carolina can look at the past history of our litigation there and ask some of the neighboring states. We're not done yet.
And by the way, that seems like a good spot to add in this call to action here for anybody watching right now to support Marc and his team in the work that they're doing in North Carolina and other states across the country. Please make sure to sign up for Democracy Docket. It's the free news outlet Marc founded to focus on everything voting and election. I'll put the link on this screen and also in the post description of this video. Marc, so we will take the win in North Carolina, obviously, but what about the state's gerrymandered congressional maps? Like North Carolina is actually one of the only states where we stand to backslide the most because of what's happening on the map front.
Yeah, and just to remind everyone, it's a real shame. What happened in North Carolina is North Carolina has passed illegal map after illegal map after illegal map, and my team and others have been litigating and winning those cases, including the case that went to the U.S. Supreme Court, where the Supreme Court rejected the fringe independent state legislature theory. But what's caught up to us there is that Republicans have changed the way in which state Supreme Court justices are elected, made them partisan elections, and that has led to a change in the composition of the North Carolina Supreme Court. And this new court has backslid on a whole host of legal doctrines, including now allowing for partisan gerrymandering. So as you say, the Republicans then went about passing an extreme partisan gerrymander. Now, my team has brought litigation challenging that map for violating the federal constitution, because we also think they engaged in racial gerrymandering and violations of the Voting Rights Act. But as we know, those cases take time to litigate. So we're not going to have a resolution in time for 2024, but I'm sure you and I will be talking in 2025 and hopefully celebrating victories then in time for the 2026 election, which I grant you is not, is cold comfort, because again, you and I have talked about redistricting now in a whole host of states: Alabama, Louisiana, Georgia, Florida, New York, Wisconsin. And one of the points that I think you have repeatedly made that it bears repeating here is, if we had settled law in which all of the maps had to be legal, right now, let's be honest, Hakeem Jeffries would be the Speaker of the House.
Yep.
And so the Republicans are playing for time in trying to string this out over time to keep partisan advantage and disenfranchise Black voters in the meantime.
Right. And by the way, that's what they're doing also with these voter suppression laws. Like they know ultimately they're going to lose at the hands of firms like yours, but they'll still keep putting them forward because it just buys them another day, buys them another day, buys them another day. And ultimately they know that this isn't tenable in the long term, but that's not going to stop them from trying to claw away at whatever like daily victories they can secure on the voter suppression front right now.
Right, because they no longer compete on policy. They no longer try to say, you know what, let me persuade voters that we're actually going to make their lives better. I mean, Donald Trump is running on a platform of, think about it this way. His first inaugural address, usually when people talk about shining cities on the hill, he talked about American carnage.
Right.
He is selling hopelessness to the American people. And when you sell hopelessness, you're not really trying to persuade people to vote for you. You are trying to just keep the other side from being able to get out their vote. And it's a really scary time in America. So
Marc, let's finish off with this. Is your team working on any other voting rights litigation in North Carolina that could have an impact on the 2024 election?
We are. So we have brought litigation in North Carolina to enforce provisions of the Voting Rights Act, not Section 2, which is what we've talked about our edition, but other provisions of the Voting Rights Act that have frankly never been enforced before, never been litigated before. And we are intent on ensuring that the opportunity for people to register to vote, the opportunity for people to get absentee ballots, the opportunity for people to have their ballots counted using whatever legal tools are available, we will bring to bear. And that's what we're doing in North Carolina as well as around the country.
All right, well, we'll leave it there. And again, to that exact point, for anybody who wants to support Marc and his team in the monumentally important work that they're doing right now, please sign up for Democracy Docket. It's the free news outlet Marc founded to focus on everything voting and elections. Again, that link is on this screen. It's also in the post description of this video. I'm Brian Taylor Cohen.
I'm Marc Elias.
This is Democracy Watch.